It's the third week of the month. Your bank account is lower than you expected. You run through your memory trying to account for where everything went, and you come up mostly empty. You didn't do anything crazy. You didn't splurge on anything dramatic. You just lived. And somehow, living costs everything you make. If that feeling sounds familiar, I want you to know something important right now, at the very start of this audiobook. You are not bad with money. You are not irresponsible. You are not uniquely broken. What you are is uninformed. The reason your paycheck disappears so fast is not one big thing. It is a collection of quiet, invisible forces, some psychological, some structural, some deeply embedded in the way American consumer culture is designed, that work together every single day to move money away from you. They are not accidents, they are systems. And once you can see them, you can stop them. That is what this audiobook is about. Not blame, not shame, just clarity. Because the moment you understand why money leaves, you gain the power to make it stay. And that power, once unlocked, changes everything. Not just your bank account, but your stress levels, your relationships, your sense of freedom, your ability to look at the future without fear. Let's talk about what is actually happening to your money and why nobody ever told you. Every 2 weeks or every month, a number appears in your bank account, and the moment it appears, something happens in your brain that is worth understanding. Neuroscientists who study financial decision-making have found that the arrival of income triggers a release of dopamine, the same chemical associated with reward and pleasure. Your brain, quite literally, celebrates the paycheck, and then it begins to spend it. Here is the psychological trap at the heart of almost every paycheck-to-paycheck story. Our brains are wired for the present, not the future. The future is abstract. It is a concept, not a feeling. The present is immediate, tangible, and real. And so when money arrives, the pull towards spending it now, on comfort, convenience, pleasure, relief, is not a character flaw. It is biology. It is the same wiring that helped our ancestors survive, repurposed in a world of subscription boxes and one-click purchasing. Understanding this is not an excuse. It is a starting point. Because once you know that your brain is working against your savings, you stop relying on willpower to save you and start building systems instead. The most financially successful people in America are not people with extraordinary self-control. They are people who designed their financial lives so that the right things happen automatically, without requiring a decision every single time. Warren Buffett did not build his fortune by resisting the urge to spend each morning. He built it by understanding value, setting principles, and letting time do the compounding. Ordinary people can borrow from that same principle. Automate your savings before you ever touch your paycheck. Set up a direct transfer to a savings or investment account on the same day your income arrives. Remove the decision entirely, because every time you have to decide whether to save or spend, the deck is stacked against saving. But psychology is only the first layer. Underneath it, there are structural forces that are far more deliberate and far more expensive. Think about the last time you set up a subscription service. Maybe it was a streaming platform. Maybe it was a meal kit, a software tool, a clothing box that arrives quarterly. These businesses are built on what economists call the subscription economy, and they are designed with ruthless precision to make cancellation feel harder than continuation. The free trial rolls into a paid plan. The cancellation process is buried 6 menus deep. The loyalty points that reset if you leave. None of this is accidental. It is engineered friction, designed to keep your money moving toward them and away from you. A Federal Reserve survey found that roughly a third of Americans have subscriptions they forgot they were paying for, not chosen to ignore, genuinely forgot. If you have not audited your subscriptions in the past 6 months, do it today. Pull up your bank statement and credit card history and go line by line. You may find anywhere from $50 to $200 a month in charges that deliver little to no value to your daily life. That is money that could be redirected instantly without a single lifestyle change. Now let's go deeper. Because subscriptions are small compared to what comes next. We live in the most convenient era in human history. You can have groceries delivered to your door in an hour. You can summon a car in seconds. You can have a restaurant meal arrive hot at your table without leaving your couch. And every single convenience costs more than you think, not because the price tag is hidden, but because the cumulative cost is something we never sit down and calculate. Let's do that math together right now. Imagine you order food through a delivery app 3 times a week. A meal that would cost $12 to cook at home, or even $15 to pick up yourself, costs you $22 to $28 delivered. After the delivery fee, the service fee, the small order fee, and the tip that the interface is carefully designed to make you feel guilty for not maximizing, 3 times a week, 52 weeks a year, you are spending somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 annually on the convenience of not going to pick up food yourself. That is not a moral judgment. Convenience has real value, especially for busy people. The point is simply this: you are paying for it, and you may not know how much. Convenience is a tax, and like all taxes, it is perfectly manageable when you see it, and quietly devastating when you don't. The same logic applies to premium versions of free products. The upgraded storage plan on your phone, the ad-free version of the app, the faster shipping tier on an account you already pay for. Each of these is a small decision that, made dozens of times unconsciously across a year, adds up to hundreds or thousands of dollars in spending that never felt like a financial choice. Personal finance author Ramit Sethi talks about this beautifully in his work. He makes a distinction between conscious spending and unconscious spending. Conscious spending means you look at something, decide it genuinely enriches your life, and choose it deliberately. Unconscious spending means the charge appears, you vaguely register it, and you move on. Most people's financial lives are dominated by unconscious spending, not because they are lazy, but because the systems around them are designed to minimize friction, maximize automatic charges, and make every purchase feel smaller than it is. The solution is not to cut every convenience from your life and live like a monk. That approach is both miserable and unsustainable, and frankly, it misses the point. The solution is to be intentional, to decide in advance what you are willing to pay for and what you are not, to make your spending choices proactively rather than reactively. Financial advisors sometimes call this a spending plan rather than a budget, because a budget sounds like deprivation, and a spending plan sounds like agency. Same tool, completely different emotional relationship. And then there is the deepest, most insidious form of the convenience tax, the one that doesn't feel like spending at all: credit. Credit cards are one of the most brilliantly designed financial products in the history of commerce. Not because they are evil, they are not evil, but because they are so cleverly engineered to separate the moment of spending from the moment of paying that the human brain barely registers the transaction as a loss at all. Researchers at MIT, in a landmark study, found that people consistently spend more when paying by credit card than when paying with cash, sometimes dramatically more. One experiment with auction bidders found that credit card users bid up to 100% more for the same items than cash users. 100%. The physical act of handing over cash activates what psychologists call the pain of paying. Swiping a card or tapping a phone bypasses that pain almost entirely. This is not a design flaw. This is the design. The easier a payment method makes it to spend, the more you spend, and the more the credit issuer profits. Not just from merchant fees, but from the interest charges that accumulate when the bill arrives. And the full balance is more than you expected to owe. Here is something worth understanding about how credit card interest works, because most people have a vague sense that it is expensive without truly grasping the math. If you carry a balance of $5,000 on a credit card, charging 22% annual interest, and you make only the minimum payment each month, you will spend roughly 8 years paying it off and pay over $4,000 in interest alone. You will pay nearly double for whatever you originally bought, and if you keep adding to that balance, as most people do, the math gets darker still. The credit card industry in the United States generates more than $100 billion in interest and fee revenue annually. The majority of that revenue comes from a specific group of cardholders, not people who never use credit, and not people who pay in full every month. It comes from people who carry a balance, month after month, sometimes for years. People who are working hard, earning a living, and quietly funneling a portion of every paycheck to a financial institution that is profiting from the gap between what they earn and what they understand. Here is the good news, and there genuinely is good news here. Credit cards, used correctly, are powerful tools. They offer purchase protection, fraud liability, travel insurance, and rewards programs that can return real value. The people who use credit cards strategically, charging only what they would spend anyway, paying the full balance every single month without exception, and harvesting the rewards, are essentially getting paid by the credit card company. The key distinction between someone who benefits from credit cards and someone who is harmed by them is one habit: paying in full, every month, without exception. If you cannot currently do that, if your balance is already carrying from month to month, then the single most financially impactful thing you can do right now is stop adding to it and start eliminating it. Not gradually, not when it feels convenient, aggressively, methodically, as your top financial priority. Because you cannot out-invest 22% interest. No S&P 500 return beats it. Every dollar of high-interest debt you eliminate is a guaranteed, risk-free return equal to the interest rate. That is the best investment available to you right now. There is a force pulling on your paycheck that nobody puts in a budget spreadsheet, and it is one of the most powerful of all. It is social pressure, the invisible cost of belonging. Think about the last time you spent money not because you genuinely wanted to, but because the situation made not spending feel awkward, cheap, or isolating. The birthday dinner at the expensive restaurant where you ordered a salad and still split the bill 7 ways. The destination bachelorette party cost $1,200. The round of drinks you bought because it was your turn. The colleague's fundraiser you contributed to because the donation link was passed around the office. The new outfit for the event that had an unspoken dress code nobody mentioned, but everyone observed. None of these expenses is reckless in isolation. They are the price of participation in a social life. But collectively, across a year, social spending is one of the most significant and least examined drains on a household budget. And because it is tied to relationships and belonging, things we are wired to protect, it is also one of the hardest to talk about. American consumer culture is profoundly social. The way we celebrate, the way we grieve, the way we show up for the people we love. Almost all of it involves spending. And there is nothing inherently wrong with that. The problem arises when spending becomes the price of admission to your own social life, and when the spending required exceeds what you can genuinely afford. The problem deepens when nobody talks about it, when everyone at the table is silently calculating whether they can afford the meal while performing the appearance of ease. Research on social comparison and spending consistently shows that people spend more in social contexts than they do alone, and they spend more when surrounded by people whose income they perceive to be higher than their own. This is not vanity. This is a deeply human need to belong, to keep pace, to not be the one who signals financial struggle in a culture that treats financial struggle as something shameful to hide. The antidote is not to withdraw from your social life. It is to build genuine honesty into your relationships, starting with yourself. Know what you can afford. Permit yourself to decline what you cannot. A true friend does not need you to go into debt to celebrate with them. And if you feel that certain relationships only function when you are spending at a certain level, that is worth examining, not just financially, but personally. Practical tools help here too. Keeping a miscellaneous or social spending category in your monthly plan, a real number, budgeted in advance, means you can participate in your social world without guilt and without damage. You already decided what this category costs. When it is spent, it is spent. This simple act of pre-deciding removes the in-the-moment pressure that leads to overspending and the post-moment regret that follows. Here is a phenomenon so common it has a name, and yet most people experience it without ever recognizing it for what it is. You get a raise, you feel genuinely good about it, you deserve it. And then, almost imperceptibly, your lifestyle expands to absorb it. A slightly nicer apartment, a better car, more meals out, upgraded versions of things you already had. And 6 months later, you are earning more than you ever have and saving exactly as much as before, which is to say, not enough. This is lifestyle creep, also called lifestyle inflation. And it is arguably the single biggest reason that income growth in America has not translated into wealth growth for the majority of households. Because income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is what comes in. Wealth is what stays. The relationship between lifestyle creep and genuine inflation, the kind measured by the Consumer Price Index, is worth separating. Real inflation, the kind driven by rising costs of housing, healthcare, food, and energy, is real, and it is serious. The cost of living in the United States has risen significantly over the past decade, and for many households, income growth has not kept pace. That is a structural problem beyond any individual's control, and it deserves acknowledgement. But lifestyle creep is different. Lifestyle creep is the portion of your spending increase that is driven not by necessity, but by upgraded preference. The step up from a reliable used car to a new lease. The move from a perfectly adequate apartment to one in a more fashionable neighborhood. The jump from a home-cooked meal to a restaurant habit. These are choices. And they are wonderful choices if made consciously, after the savings rate is protected. They become quietly destructive when they happen automatically, driven by the simple fact that more money arrived and the brain decided it was time to feel like more. The framework that changes this dynamic is one of the most powerful in all of personal finance, and it is deceptively simple. Every time your income increases, commit in advance to saving at least 50% of the increase, before the lifestyle adjusts, before the new habit forms. If you get a $5,000 raise, direct at least $2,500 of it to savings or investments immediately and automatically. Let the other $2,500 improve your life. This single rule, applied consistently across a career, is the difference between a comfortable retirement and a desperate one. John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard and one of the most important figures in American investing history, built his philosophy on a few core ideas. Keep costs low, stay the course, do not try to time the market. But underlying all of it was a belief in the power of discipline over time, not a dramatic sacrifice, not extraordinary intelligence, just consistent, quiet discipline applied year after year. The financial markets reward patience in ways they never reward cleverness, and patience starts with protecting what you earn before you spend it. If you want to understand where most American paychecks go, you only need to look at three categories: housing, transportation, and food. These three alone typically account for somewhere between 60 and 70% of an average household's spending. And in each category, there is a significant gap between what people spend and what they need to spend. A gap driven by cultural expectation, poor planning, and the quiet accumulation of upgrades that felt small when they were made. Start with housing. The conventional guidance from mortgage lenders is that your housing costs should not exceed 28% of your gross monthly income. But lenders have an incentive to approve as large a loan as possible. That is how they make money. What you qualify for and what you can genuinely afford in the context of a healthy financial life are two entirely different numbers. Financial independence advocates frequently recommend keeping total housing costs, mortgage or rent, insurance, taxes, maintenance, below 25% of your take-home pay. In many American cities, achieving that requires real trade-offs: commuting farther, choosing a smaller space, delaying the purchase, or targeting up-and-coming neighborhoods rather than established ones. These trade-offs are not glamorous, but the financial freedom they create is. Transportation is the category where the American cultural narrative causes perhaps the most financial damage of all. Cars in the United States are not just tools. They are status signals. They are extensions of identity. The automotive industry and its advertisers have spent decades and billions of dollars ensuring that you associate your vehicle with your worth as a person, your success, your taste, your freedom. And it has worked spectacularly well. The average new car payment in the United States, as of recent data, is over $700 a month. $700 every month for a machine that loses value every single day you own it. A reliable, well-maintained used vehicle costing $15,000 to $20,000, purchased with cash or a short, low-interest loan, does everything a $45,000 new vehicle does, at roughly a third of the total cost of ownership. The difference redirected to investments over a decade is not a small amount. It is life-changing. The car you drive will never be remembered by anyone who matters. The financial security you build will shape every year of your life going forward. And then there is food, not groceries. Most people underestimate their grocery spending, but it is manageable. The real number is food outside the home. The coffee stop on the way to work. The lunch felt easier than packing something. The dinner that nobody felt like cooking. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American household spends more than $3,000 annually on food away from home. For households that skew toward convenience and delivery, that number can be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 or more. This is not about eliminating restaurants from your life. It is about seeing clearly what the habit costs and deciding consciously whether that number reflects your actual values and priorities. The common thread across all three of these categories is the same. The spending is not wrong. The unconsciousness is. The family that chooses a spacious home because space genuinely matters to them, drives a reliable car that fits their actual needs, and enjoys regular restaurant meals as a genuine priority, that family is making conscious, values-aligned choices. The family doing the same things without ever having chosen them, drifting into them because it was the path of least resistance, is living a financial life designed by default rather than by design. Default is expensive. Let's talk about the price you pay for staying exactly where you are, not in dollars this month, or even this year. The price over a lifetime. The paycheck to paycheck cycle has a financial cost and an emotional cost, and both are staggering. The financial cost is straightforward. When you have no financial cushion, every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. The car repair, the medical bill, the appliance that dies. These are not rare events. They are certainties. Life produces financial surprises on a regular schedule. The only question is whether you meet those surprises with savings or with debt. Debt makes everything cost more. A $1,200 car repair paid with a credit card and carried for 18 months at 20% interest becomes a $1,700 car repair. A $2,000 medical bill becomes a $2,800 medical bill. The cycle compounds itself. Each crisis makes the next one harder to absorb, and the financial margin, the breathing room that would allow you to absorb a hit without damage, never has the chance to build. The emotional cost is harder to quantify and just as real. Financial stress is the leading cause of relationship conflict in American households. It is associated with higher rates of anxiety, depression, poor sleep, and diminished physical health. When your financial foundation is unstable, a part of your brain is always running a low-grade background process, calculating, worrying, managing a kind of quiet dread about what might go wrong next. That cognitive and emotional load costs you in focus, in creativity, in presence with the people you love. It costs you in the quality of your decisions, because stressed brains make worse choices, and financial stress is particularly corrosive to the kind of long-term thinking that good financial decisions require. This is why financial literacy is not just about money, it is about the quality of life. The person who has 3 months of living expenses saved in a high-yield account, who carries no high-interest debt, who is investing consistently even in modest amounts. That person does not live in the same psychological reality as someone who is perpetually one paycheck away from trouble. They are playing the same game with an entirely different sense of security. And here is the most important thing to understand about building that security. It does not require a windfall. It does not require a dramatic income increase, though that certainly helps. It requires a decision, a real, committed, written-down decision to stop living by default and start living by design. That decision, made once and backed by consistent action, is the beginning of everything. So where do you begin? Not tomorrow, not when things calm down, not when you get the next raise. Right now, with what you have, exactly as things are. The first step is the most important and the most resisted. Look at the numbers, all of them. Pull up your bank account, your credit card statements, your loan balances, and your savings. Write down what comes in each month and what goes out. This exercise, which takes an hour at most, is something the majority of Americans have never done completely. And that is not laziness. It is avoidance. because seeing the full picture is uncomfortable, but it is the only starting point that leads anywhere real. What you will find when you do this, and I promise you will find this, is that there are places where money is going that you never consciously chose, subscriptions you forgot, habits whose total cost you have never calculated, categories where the weekly spending, multiplied by 52, produces a number that genuinely surprises you. This is not cause for shame, it is cause for action. Every dollar you find in this audit is a dollar you can redirect. The second step is to build what personal finance experts call a zero-based budget. Not a vague intention to spend less. A specific line-by-line plan that gives every dollar of your income a job before the month begins. Every dollar either goes to a specific expense, to debt repayment, or to savings and investment. $0 are unaccounted for. This is not a restriction, it is clarity. People whose zero-based budget report not that they feel deprived, but that they feel in control. That shift from reactive to intentional is worth more than any specific dollar amount. The third step is to automate the most important behaviors so they happen without a decision. Savings are transferred automatically on payday. Investment contributions set up through your employer or your brokerage. Debt payments are scheduled so they never accidentally miss. The architecture of your financial life should make the right actions the easiest actions. The fourth step is to address debt, not eventually, not gradually, but with a specific plan and a specific timeline. List every debt you carry, its balance, and its interest rate. Choose your approach: the avalanche, attacking the highest interest rate first, or the snowball, eliminating the smallest balance first for the psychological momentum. Both work. Both are infinitely better than no plan. Assign extra money to your target debt every month, consistently, until it is gone. Then roll that payment to the next one. This is the debt snowball in action, and it works because momentum in personal finance is a real and powerful force. And the fifth step, one that is easy to underestimate, is to find your why. Not the why of saving money in the abstract, but your specific, personal, deeply felt reason for building a different financial life. Is it freedom from the Sunday night dread about Monday's bank statement? Is it being able to help your kids without sacrificing your own security? Is it the ability to leave a job that drains you, on your own terms, without financial panic? Or is it simply peace, the deep, quiet peace of knowing that if something goes wrong, you are ready? Whatever your why is, write it down. Put it somewhere you see it, because the day will come, and it always comes, when the discipline feels hard, and the sacrifice feels large, and the progress feels slow. On that day, the why is the only thing that keeps you moving forward. Here is what I want you to take away from everything we have talked about today. Your paycheck disappears fast, not because you are failing, but because you were never given the instruction manual for how money actually works. The psychology that makes spending feel natural and saving feel like a sacrifice. The systems that are deliberately designed to extract money from you before you notice. The social pressures that make financial honesty feel risky. The lifestyle inflation that silently grows to fill every income increase. These are not personal failures, they are environmental conditions. And like all environmental conditions, they can be understood, navigated, and overcome. The people who build real financial security in this country, not the lucky ones, not the ones born into wealth, but the ones who built it from a regular paycheck over a working lifetime, share a set of behaviors that have nothing to do with income level and everything to do with intention. They spend less than they earn, and they do it consistently. They automate saving, so it happens before they can spend the money. They understand the true cost of debt, and they eliminate it with urgency. They invest in low-cost, diversified instruments, and they leave that investment alone through the market's inevitable ups and downs. And they protect their financial lives with insurance, emergency funds, and a plan for the unexpected. None of this is complicated. I want to say that plainly, because the financial industry sometimes benefits from making it seem complicated, from making you feel like you need expensive advice or sophisticated products to do something that is, at its core, simple. It is not always easy, but it is simple. And the distance between where you are now and a financial life you genuinely feel good about is shorter than you think. Start with one thing, just one. Go home today and spend an hour looking at your actual numbers, all of them. That 1 hour is the beginning. Because you cannot change what you cannot see, and the moment you see it clearly, you have already begun. Your paycheck is not the problem. What happens to it is the problem. And what happens to it is something you now have the knowledge to change. You've got this, truly. And the fact that you are here, listening, learning, asking these questions, that already puts you ahead of where you were an hour ago. That is not a small thing. This has been the hidden reason your paycheck disappears so fast. Share it with someone who needs it. Talk about it. Let these ideas breathe in your life and watch what shifts. Take care of your money and let your money take care of you.